On today's episode, we have Erin McNeil chatting all things beauty business with us. We touch on so many great ideas on marketing, as well as scaling your business to the next level, understanding the numbers, as well as how important having a business coach or a mentor can be for your business. So let's dive into this episode because we're going to learn lots and lots of information.
Yeah, it's been a long run for me. Actually, I've never worked in any other industry other than spa. And I got into spa because I did an internship in high school. So back when I was in high school, you could get like a whole credit for doing a type of internship. It was called a co-op back then. And I did well. So they hired me on the weekends working at this spa in my hometown, just doing reception. And I loved it. And so the first chance that I got out of high school, I applied for aesthetic school, got into aesthetic school. I went to Sheridan College, did a 2-year diploma. And from there, once I graduated, I also worked for the program when I was in school. So I knew that I wanted to get into like management. I guess I was like a bit of a bossy kid. So I was like a natural born leader. And I'm the only girl with like 3 brothers. So naturally, like I took on that role. And then after college, I got a job. My very first job was in downtown Toronto. I worked at the Park Hyatt for not too long. But basically, my career went from traditional aesthetics. I moved into medical aesthetics in my early 20s, became a laser tech, and then eventually started doing trainings on lasers, helped to grow a Medi-Spa chain that was in Canada at the time, and moved on from there and moved back into traditional spa in the hospitality sector and started working with a luxury brand globally in 2013. And working with them, I got opportunities to work abroad. So I worked in Bermuda, I worked in a few different states in the US, I worked in Thailand, worked and lived in mainland China and Hong Kong. So I got to be a part of so many really cool projects and worked my way up through that sort of corporate ladder and, found myself in a really amazing position. But also after so many years of kind of a more executive role in the spa industry, my main focus was always business development, business strategy, because I was now leading an operation. I was a department head and in charge of wellness division. So it was an amazing job on paper, but I wanted to get back to my roots of, leadership and training and truly feeling like I was making a difference. And that's why a lot of us do get into aesthetics, right? Because we're these like natural born healers, but also through transformation and healing others, you usually heal yourself as well, right? And during the pandemic, I just decided to leave my corporate, very stable job and go out on my own and start doing business coaching specifically for spa owners or those people who were doing it part-time and truly wanted to learn how to expand their business and go full-time. Because I saw so many businesses falling apart during the pandemic, I knew that I could be more impactful for smaller businesses and entrepreneurs who truly needed the help on running their business. So a lot of us in spa, we get into it because we love it, not because we're masters at business, right? Mm-hmm. And so during the pandemic, when a lot of businesses had to close and people didn't have a plan B, they didn't have the strategy, understanding, or depth of knowledge to keep their business going during the pandemic, they just kind of acquiesced and closed their doors. And it was a really like eye-opening time where I thought, okay, I know this seems like a crazy move, but I'm going to leave this, again, very stable job to go out on my own and start something new that was a lot more impactful for me, but I felt like would be more impactful for the people that I would serve. So here I am. I am the spa business coach, and I've been doing, I left just over a year ago, and I created a program based on my own experiences and the experiences that people are going through with trying to understand the back end of running a business in this particular industry understanding profits, understanding margins, understanding how to be a leader, how to show up with confidence, the whole gamut of
Mhm.
how you show up as a person who owns a business but also works within that business.
Yeah, and just to like summarize all of what you just said about the coaching thing, I feel like that's what a lot of people during the pandemic, like myself included being a spa owner, I was like, where do I turn? Who do I go to? And like really taking the time to work on our businesses and in them and really see like what's working, what isn't working. And the numbers, because like you said, as business owners, normally we're like, oh, we hire a bookkeeper, an accountant to do those things. But really, when you ask about like your profit and loss or what your monthly revenue are, a lot of us don't really know off the top of our head. So it's so important to see where those numbers are going and what's happening. So very, very interesting.
Yeah, and I was even on a call earlier this morning with a client of mine, and she's a nurse injector, and I think that there's a lot of allure around our industry, right? Because it's so glamorous or presents so glamorous. And it's just like any other business on the back end. If you really don't know how to make sense of the numbers, it's really hard to keep your doors open, right? And the allure that we have is that the profit margins are huge. Now they can be, but it's not for everything. And a lot of people are getting into the business with the misconception that it's easy money. And it just isn't.
No,
It just isn't.
no.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like I have a lot of people that come to me either if they're like in co-op or people wanting to get into the different industries and almost do like a little mini internship to kind of feel it out and shadow us as estheticians and in the spa. But it's crazy when people come in and out of the spa, they don't see the behind the scenes of what's really going on. And like even doing the like now with all the cleaning we have to do, and I just went and had to buy all extra stuff for cleaning and disinfectant and everything we need to do even more, and how much product we're going through now of reopening. So now with COVID and everything going on, have you noticed a lot of people shifting into coaching? Like, have you had like this, like more people before, or after the opening and closing with the pandemic?
So the thing that so actually in what I noticed is because the position that I left was, executive, very corporate, and let's say secure, right? You have a salary, you've got set hours, you know what your job is, and what I saw was a lot of people like hunker down and say like, I'm not going anywhere because I got it good, and I'm
Yeah.
not going to move. I'm not going to take a chance. I'm just going to sit and I'm going to wait. And so anyone who was thinking of leaving a job, starting a business, I think in our field, in that sector of it, the more like spa managers, spa directors, um, people who had more of that stability, who weren't entrepreneurs, they stayed. They're like, I'm not taking a chance because no one's hiring. I can't move around.
Mhm.
But for the entrepreneurs, it was a huge pivot. And what I saw was they either took the risk to get a coach, figure out, start doing those hard things that they didn't have time to do before, which was let me have a look at my numbers, even though I'm really scared. I don't even want to look, right? Also, let's take a look at what's working and not working in my business. Or people literally just closed their doors and was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to do something else until I can pick up where I left off. And
Mhm.
the problem there was a lot of the people that closed the door and said, like, okay, I'm going to wait until I can open again, didn't work on their business, didn't work on anything. So they didn't use that opportunity or see it as an opportunity to evaluate and see, okay, when I come back, I want to come back stronger, brighter, smarter, more efficient, whatever it might be, right? So it was a very like this or that situation,
Mhm.
um, which involved a lot of those people who were willing to take the chance of, I'm now going to bring on more skincare lines because I want bigger e-com. I'm going to now open a web shop. I'm going to pivot and now I'm going to offer extended services, or maybe I'm going to train other people, or I'm going to segment out parts of my business. They were really creative or not. It
Mhm.
was really either or.
Even to that point too, I see like even locally here, we have an age gap in the sense of spa owners. Like we have our younger group, which I would say is myself, and there's a handful of us. And then we have that older age group that could be like our mother's age kind of age group that aren't techie. So I feel like that was another thing. Like we switched to e-commerce, we did all of our gift cards digital, we did a lot of different things and even brought in some other products that we would have probably never brought in before. We had kind of like an online boutique and like manicure and pedicure kits, that kind of thing where people could take them home and do. But it was one of those things where I found with the because it was all online, right? So yeah, you could do curbside pickup, but how is the person supposed to be shopping or see what you have in store? So that's kind of where I saw it too, to your point of like whether people just closed the doors and that was it until they reopen, or the people that got online and learned. I say you can Google anything, you can YouTube anything. So it was taking that time to educate yourself, like you said.
It's like truly the thing that for me differentiated it was your mindset.
Yes.
Because everything you just mentioned is a teachable skill. I call these soft skills. They can be taught to anyone who is willing to learn, right? But there were a lot of people like what you just mentioned who maybe been in business for a while and they thought like, I don't know Instagram, I don't know TikTok, I don't know this. And so they just felt defeated and they let themselves be defeated because their mindset told them, I'm too old to learn, I shouldn't have to do this. And so when you resist what is happening, you suffer, right? And
Absolutely.
so the people who were saying, okay, this sucks, but I got to do something about it. I can't just sit here and not do anything about it. And that was the big difference, was the mindset of the people behind it. It wasn't that anybody was a genius, you know, it was a mindset. And so you see the people now that things are opening up with the mindset that like, oh, so what I thought I started out as in business, I don't have to be married to. It's not set in stone. It is not absolute. And that's with anything in life, right? The one guarantee in life is change.
Absolutely. On this podcast, we always talk about nutrition and how important our gut health is, as well as how our brains function when we're eating superfoods and obviously the convenience of having those available. Personally, I'm like a low-key, non-prep, don't like to be in the kitchen kind of person, and I'm sure a lot of my entrepreneurs and busy moms and busy people listening can completely relate to this. Now, if you haven't tried Revive or heard of it, it's definitely a game changer. With my promo code and my affiliate links linked below, you will be able to receive 50% off your first order / box of these delicious pre-portioned superfoods that can be delivered right to your door with free delivery at checkout. So just hit the link below for the affiliate links as well as the promos to get 50% off your first box of these delicious pre-portioned meals that you're going to be thanking me for later.
So I answered a question on social the other day because it came through. It was like, well, I want to have market share. Okay. But like, if you're new and you want to have market share, like what, I use other examples because sometimes it's difficult in our industry, but like, why do you think a company like Apple thrives? Their intention isn't to buy market share, not at the root cause of why that product exists. Of course, they want to because they want to compete and be competitive in business, but intention is everything. So if you literally are posting just to post, or you're selling a product just to sell that product because everyone else is, or because the rep had a good pitch, like it's not good enough and it's not gonna work out the way that you were either pitched to about or the way that you might envision it, right? You truly have to come from an intention. Everything that you do, like, why are you wearing that outfit today? Why did you choose that lip color? There is an intention behind it. And when you start actually paying attention to the deeper meaning of why you do things, why you want what you want, or why you do what you do, it makes what you do much more impactful. And it has more longevity.
Mm-hmm. And the purpose behind it, right? Like why you get up in the morning and do what you do. The intention is there of your next steps.
Right. So if you're posting on social and you're like, okay, my intention, like today I want to get more followers. Okay, then you have to ask, okay, why do I want more followers? Why will people follow me? Why should they follow me? Yeah. Am I giving any value? Do I believe that it's my birthright for them to follow me because I'm fabulous? Like it has to be deeper than that, right? Yeah. It has to. And again, like there's so much to say about social media because most of it is fake. Of course, there's the superficial reasons. We all have those moments of superficiality where we're like, oh my God, I love her makeup or hair or whatever. But there's got to be something else deeper that you connect with that keeps you engaged and coming back. So whether that's on social, in your treatment, the way you sell your products, the experience that your client has going through your web shop, it's everything.
Mhm.
So if you have zero intention and you're just doing things to do them, you're essentially asleep at the wheel. It's not going to last very long.
Absolutely. The other thing that I've noticed too is when we were in lockdown, I noticed a lot of people took time because we were kind of pushing like, give us testimonials on Google. We want to hear from you. Like we tried to put a lot of that out there to hear, like to say, like, we want to hear from you what's working and what isn't working in our business. And that was one of the things I really noticed with like, we did online skincare consulting, and that went like hugely successful. Like I was mind blown of how well that did, but I would have never even thought about that if we didn't put it out there to our clients to hear what they wanted to hear. So it's kind of interesting of doing like the polls and the different things you can do on social media, the question boxes, to hear some of these feedbacks from your clients as well. I think social media is a great tool if you use intention, like you said.
Well, and the thing is also sometimes you have the right intention, but you don't communicate it properly. So it doesn't land the way that you hoped, right? So it's one thing to say, like, hey, give us a Google review versus, we're in lockdown, we miss seeing you, but while we're closed, we want to improve our service. So is there any feedback that you can give to us that will improve? It's the exact same thing. You're asking for feedback on how you can improve. See, the intention is different, right? If I said, give me a Google review, my intention maybe is because I want everyone else to think I'm amazing. But if your intention truly is to give a better experience, you're going to approach it differently. Like, I want your experience next time you come in to be even better. How can I serve you better? Right? So it's essentially you're asking for the same thing, but you are posing it in a different way that is less selfish, and it goes so much farther than if you're like, hey, give me a review because I'm great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, and turning it into like turning it for the client instead of, like you said, making it selfishly about the business or yourself. Turn it
exactly.
so it's like, this is about you, client. We're going to make your experience that much better when you come in for your next appointment, and we want to hear how we can do that for you and
Yeah,
custom.
the client, trust me, the client will remember that you, out of all the other places that they went to or can go to, they remember that you reached out to ask, how can I better serve you?
Mm-hmm.
When you come in, I recall last time when you came in, we did this and this in your facial. How was that for you? Was there any element that you would love to see added? Right? Like that person is going to remember that you took the time to reach out in a more personal way. It's just like in the DM process, right? Like a lot of a lot of us now get DMs. It's like, hey, want 1,000 followers? It's like, okay, clearly, like you didn't look at my profile. You don't even know what I do. Like this is not personal. You're a robot.
No, it's like copy
I-
paste.
yeah, I'm not connected to that. People now, and again, the beauty industry, the spa industry, it's so intimate that the people are choosing the experience over the price, right? So it's very like personal. And so
Absolutely.
if you also don't approach them in a personal way, you don't make it personal, you don't make it intuitive, you're making it all about yourself, your business is really going to struggle.
And any business, like not even beauty,
Yeah.
like
Well,
anyone
exactly.
who owns like a boutique or even an online store or anything, these are like the pillars to create a successful business, which is amazing.
Mhm.
Now, to your point of like pricing and products and costs and everything for that too, I know like we're in a small town, we're in Bracebridge, like in Miskoka, and we have a huge scale of clients in the sense of we have people who are more on a budget. We have some people that have an infinity budget where it doesn't matter what the cost of that night cream is. Now, I listened to a really interesting video which made me think differently about pricing and margins when you were explaining, like when you're going to your skincare rep or anybody, even like if you have a clothing boutique or something like that, your margins are normally 50-50, like that 50% margin. So I'll let you elaborate kind of what you were saying in that video about how you're not limited to that. You can talk to your reps, your skincare reps, or your boutique owners and see where else they can expand on those margins.
Well, historically, I think in our industry, the the way that it's gone is that the reps and vendors and suppliers have all the power.
Hmm.
It's time to flip that switch. I mean, I've been doing it for a while where I interview you if you want your product in my spa.
Yes.
So it's not the other way around. I'm not paying for a display case because you're already getting free rental of my retail shelves
I like.
and then getting paid back for it. So when you look at it that way, it's like, would you have somebody come and live with you for free and then cook for them too on top of that? Probably not.
No.
And so when it comes to a rep, of course, you have to remember most of the time they're not in there so your business does well, they're in there so they do well. So you have to remember you are like they're pitching you, and there's usually a lot of room. But the things that I typically ask a rep or a new product line if they're coming in is, I want to know about historical sales. Give me some historical data so that I can compare and see if this would work in my market. So give me a comparable market with a comparable demographic, with a comparable, like, if it's a good product, they should have those comparables. Now, the bigger the product line you go, right? So some of those bigger international brands, it's harder to get the type of conditions that you want in your contracts or in your relationship, which is also okay because sometimes you just want to carry that thing because it's popular. I get it. But I always, especially if you're in a small market, like if you're in Bracebridge and your, let's say, comp set, when I talk about comp set, that's like the people that you're competing for market share with. If you're all carrying the same product, you have zero room to mark up, right? So you've already done yourself a disservice. So you can't have an emotional attachment to that product. So I tend to lean a little bit toward more boutique brands, maybe Canadian brands or brands that you can actually give an opportunity to, and you both are taking a chance on each other. They're taking a chance on you, you're taking a chance on them. So they're willing to be a bit more flexible. So the thing is, like, if everybody else is carrying X skincare line, why should you carry it too?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're capping yourself. The other thing is, if you're carrying a product that doesn't exist in your market, you do have a lot more flexibility to increase that profit margin just by marking up and doing maybe a 1.5 markup instead of a zero point 0.5, right? Because 50% is only what we would call 0.5, right?
Mhm.
So this is where you have to look at, is it a smart business decision to carry this product even though the brand does really well everywhere else? Well, if all your competitors have it, the best you can do is price the exact same.
Mhm.
Where you would have to do different is the experience that you deliver to your client. If you don't deliver anything different, it's like having two Walmarts in the same city,
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. The other
right?
thing that I noticed too is it's actually crazy that you mentioned the whole Canadian boutique thing because that's literally what we've done is we've brought in a lot of like even local vendors who don't have an online store or somewhere to actually sell from, and then as well as some online businesses, mostly on the West Coast, which is there's a lot of entrepreneur, really neat companies out in like BC, Vancouver area, and so we brought them in. But another thing that I noticed with a lot of other companies we brought in is there's not a lot of competition clauses within area ranges. Now, that was something we ran into an issue with our skincare line. There was another company that we've had ours for like 5+ years, and we were the only ones in the entire area for like over an hour, probably 2 hour span on either side of us. And so we had no competition. It was amazing. And then someone else had brought it in, and they're like 5 minute drive from us, and it was a little stressful at the beginning, but I was like, we're known for this, like we brought this in first and we have such a good loyal clientele.
You
But
made it easy for everyone else to buy from your competitor.
exactly. So I was like, oh, we kind of like, and then I remember calling the company talking about like competition clause and all that stuff. They're like, that doesn't really exist that often anymore in companies, which I thought was kind of interesting for,
It doesn't because people don't demand it, and
yeah,
that's a different thing. Is if you're so number one, advice is learn to read contracts,
yes,
right? Because a lot of people will get into contract with employees, with vendors, with suppliers, and they don't read the contract because I know you, I trust you, or, oh, well, I know someone who carries that line, so I'm sure it's fine. No, read the contract. And if you don't like the contract terms, you are the owner, you are the CEO of your business.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one going to advocate for your business except you. So if you don't look over the contract and the clauses that are in there, you don't find agreeable or fair, or maybe you want a little bit of padding and protection, you know, definitely a non-compete clause should be in there. If you're bringing in a boutique brand in a brand new market, you are taking a chance on that brand. So there should be a non-compete clause in there. And even if it's for 1 year or 2 years, I did a non-compete with a really, really high level brand that all of your listeners will know. I'm not going to mention who it is, but I brought it into a new market that it wasn't even in at all. And I was like, you don't get on my shelves unless I get a non-compete for at least, and all I could get was 6 months. But they did it because they wanted to make sure that the clients that were walking through my spa saw their product and purchased it. So
And make it kind of exclusive, right? Like kind of like
right,
that.
you can ask for exclusivity, but also like again, I try to think like if I'm also that business owner, why
Yes.
would I say yes to exclusivity? So unless you plan to build with that particular brand, or you have a franchising, or somehow you're able to also facilitate that other brand, chances are they won't do exclusivity with you for the entirety of the product lifespan. But if you say, okay, I want exclusivity for 6 months, a year, or whatever, so that you have the opportunity to carve out the niche, to say you brought it in, you were the first one, and that you are the person that kind of sets the market for that particular product, then that's a different story. So I think it's also when you go into business, you have to still treat your vendors and suppliers how you would want to be treated. I don't want to be greedy, because I
Yeah.
still want that other brand to thrive, right? If you're a small owner, then you want another small brand to also thrive as well, right? So you have to, I always think like, what would I think is fair? Or if it was my sister I was signing a contract with, do I want to cap off her growth? Absolutely not. But do I want to carve out a space where I can make this my own for X amount of time? 100%. So it's like, okay, Erin, you've got 6 months to make a go of this, so that everyone else who tries to do it after you, second isn't close.
Yeah,
Number one
absolutely.
is here, and second's way down here.
Yeah, and that's a good point. My sister and I are pretty competitive, but it's like a healthy competitiveness.
Yeah.
And see, I see to your point, because we also have a product line that we private label lash extension products. So we have everything from like lash lift products, tinting, lash serums, everything for lash extensions, as well as training. And so I see both sides of it, right? So I see like I own a spa boutique, but then I also own a product line that we ship globally. So I'm like, I can see both sides of the story when it comes to that product line coming in, as well as the store owner, boutique owner. So it's kind of like a nice mend, because I feel like I can kind of hear from both sides of the story when it comes to those
Yeah.
boutique owners, or even educators, or people that are wanting to expand and learn as
Yeah.
well. So when it comes to like education and spas, I'm sure I know for us right now, we're talking about like bringing in different services, kind of experimenting a little bit more on like some of the new trends that have happened in the past couple of years. What are some of the things that you tell your clients when it comes to like education, and really seeing kind of where the margins are at and the profit and loss when it comes to education and bringing new services and products in?
Oh, there's so much to talk about on training and education in so many different sectors, right? Because I think for most of us that start out as an esthetician, right? And when you start out as an esthetician or after you graduate, what you need to understand is you got the paper, now you need to start learning.
Yes.
You only got the foundation, right? So everything beyond that, just know that you don't know what you don't know. And too many people in our industry, because now it's estheticians and laser techs and medical estheticians and nurses and doctors, there's a lot of people with a lot of pride, who won't ask for help and would and watch their business sink instead of asking for help. So the first thing that I always say is like, admit what you don't know. That's your opportunity to learn about everything. And the other thing is that when you're an esthetician or a nurse injector or anyone who starts a business, you have an aesthetics diploma or a nursing degree or a doctorate. Okay? You don't have an MBA. So don't pretend that you know how to run business, you know how to inject or do a facial or do a massage, whatever it might be. And it's okay to not know. Just because you now have a boutique or a spa doesn't mean that you got the keys and all of a sudden the knowledge came with the keys. It doesn't work like that. So when it comes to running your business and the profits and the loss and all of that, you want to surround yourself with people who are doing well, who understand business, who are other entrepreneurs who get it, right? So, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably in the wrong room. Go to the room where you know the least, because that's where you're going to learn the most. Mm-hmm. And when you start getting brave enough to enter into those spaces where you say, like, I don't know anything, but I'm here to learn, is when you actually truly start learning how to grow your business, which by way of just osmosis helps you grow as a professional, grow as a person, and grow as a better business owner. So the thing about numbers in the business is a lot of us feel, myself included, right? Is I'm not good at math, so I'm not going to touch the numbers. I'm here to tell you, you do not have to be good at math. I keep a calculator, like my calculator is on my most recent button all the time because I'm using a calculator all day long, right? Numbers are simple and can be easy to follow. It's just a matter of conditioning yourself to start looking at numbers or the things that make you feel uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And so, there are certain profit margins depending on the type of treatment that it is that we know, or when I say we, I mean like when I work on with clients that we know would be healthy, right? There are a lot of different ways that you can evaluate numbers. There's no one absolute way to make a business decision, but if you don't know anything about your numbers, you're basically doing this and like hoping that you hit the right thing. It's like covering your eyes and walking in the dark, or being in a landmine field and like with your blinded and hoping you don't step on a landmine. It's like dangerous, mm-hmm. right? So profit margins, using QuickBooks. So I wanted to say, because I posted the other day and I have almost all of my clients use one or the other, if not both, QuickBooks, accountants. I am not discounting the value that's added to your business when you use those tools. Mm-hmm. You should, especially if you're also not very good at the discipline of watching numbers. But there are basic fundamental numbers that you need to pay attention to. It's your revenue. Yes. Your expenses for labor, your overhead expenses, and the expenses of how you calculate product costs and all of the other expenses in your business. Laundry, office supplies, operating supplies, guest supplies, license and permits. There's tons of stuff, right? But when it comes to numbers, I would say those are like major ones that you want to look at. But the reality is whatever you enter into QuickBooks, right, is essentially like you're doing it. So if you already don't know what you're doing, you're going to generate reports in a program that's not doing anything for you.
For those who have been listening, I'm a massive fan of Squarespace, and I don't really know what I would do without them. With both our brick and mortar store as well as our e-commerce, I can do everything in one place. Whether it's e-commerce, I can do inventory, email campaigns, appointments, and so much more. Now, Beauty Behind the Brand has partnered up with Squarespace to offer you 10% off your first subscription. All you need is promo code PARTNER10.
It depends how you have it set up. Accountants usually give you quarterly statements, if not annually, and by then it's way too late to fix something in your business, right? Okay. If you wait until December 31st to find out how you did in June, chances are those other 6 months to follow weren't good either, and you had the opportunity. So the way that I work with my clients, I have a lot of done-for-you templates that set them up monthly so they can see. We create your own personalized P&L based on what you have going on in your specific. So you have a boutique spa. So your lines of retail and your different categories of revenue are going to be different than if you were a plastic surgeon or if you were a nurse injector, which is fine. But It's just a matter of setting that all up. Now, does an accountant know the difference between you being a boutique spa or a resort spa or a medi spa? Probably not. So can they advise you if your revenue lines or your profit margins are correct? Nope, because they have no context. So what they do is help you, they help advise, right? Okay, you can use X toward CapEx items this year, capital expenditure here. If you want to do some improvements, you can afford X, right? If you need to purchase a new machine, they can advise you on how to do that based on an annual revenue. That's when you want to have an appointment with your accountant to go over whether it's quarterly or annually. But the rest of the time, even then, if you don't know that background information, you're taking guidance from an accountant who knows numbers, not your business.
Absolutely. And services, like seeing which services are bringing in, like we were having this conversation the other day and we were talking about like waxing, for example, and how much waxing we're doing right now and buying product and everything like that. But I'm like, look at how many services we can get out of one specific, like facial waxing, for example, how many services we can get out of one pot of wax and the time that's allotted for it, and like really breaking down each service to figure out, is this a service that we should keep? Does it make sense for us, right? And that was something with the lockdown, we were looking at that, of seeing like we're booked out like months in advance normally, and it was like, okay, so facials are now happening, we can now do facials. Okay, this makes sense because we can have that follow-up sale afterwards with our clients and educate them. And I feel like a lot of people are on that education train. People are self-educating themselves too and seeing which services they prefer, or oh, I can add this on, or this would benefit me. So that's something we brought on, was a lot of add-on services. So when people book online or call, we'll kind of like, it's kind of like when you go to McDonald's. Oh, do you want fries with that? It's like, oh,
Absolutely.
did you want lymphatic drainage when you get your facial today? Did you want cupping? Did you want, so it's amazing with just that simple language, like what you were saying before, making it about the client, how much that extra revenue has been coming in. Now, and then with pricing and things like that, we had to up our prices because of the time we have to clean now, and also the money we're spending on cleaning and disinfecting just that much more often. Is that something that you have a lot of conversations around right now with a lot of your clients? Is that whole pricing, now that things, hopefully, knock on wood, are going to be staying moving forward with the reopening?
Yeah, we're talking a lot about pricing. So I like that you brought up that you're doing add on services, because the thing that I encourage people to do is understand what your average ticket price is per hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if for you, you're like, okay, oh, I had 15 clients today. Sounds really busy. But if you had 15 clients because every, let's say, 30 minutes you were doing a brow wax at a price of $20, well, you probably made like 300 bucks that day, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm like, oh my gosh, for 8 hours and 300, like when you break it down, you're like, whoa, if I just did a facial with a brow wax in it, my average ticket price goes up like 350%. And within that 1 hour, my average ticket price goes up. So add-ons are definitely important, but again, it has to be geared toward the client. You don't just want to say, oh, we do this, we do this, we do this. It's I do agree with you. We can take note from the fast food industry, like supersize, add on this. Oh, did you want the special of the day? Like, they're trained so well to upsell. And us as estheticians or in the spa, we don't do it often enough. So I definitely agree with that, because what you want is you want the most revenue for the time, right? So if it takes you an hour to do a brow wax because you're new at it, well, I mean, that's extreme, right? But still, if it takes you even 30 minutes and it's $20 and you do two clients in 1 hour, well, you've only brought in a revenue of $40 for that business, which the treatment costing of that is probably only going to be a 75% or maybe a bit higher, but let's call it 75%. So really the business brought in actually only like, instead of $40, it would be something like $30 or $28.
Mm-hmm.
So the business only made $28 an hour. I can make more money if I was doing a different job.
Yes.
Right. So I break it down that way. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, I do, it's important to look at those numbers. But pricing for sure we're looking at, because now that people have had so much time to take a step back, the thing that's been beautiful for our industry is that people are starting to see that beauty, wellness, well-being, it is all interconnected, and it's not a luxury item. It's a true like life balance. It's about well-being. It's about treating yourself well. And if, getting your facials or doing those types of beauty treatments do help your mental health, they help your emotional health. These are things now that people are not taking for granted. So the thing that I'm talking about a lot when we are upping prices, here's the thing. I don't think that you need to tell anybody like, oh, well, I had to buy extra cleaning supplies, so that's why my price went up. No, do not give a disclaimer as to why your prices went up. My prices went up because during that time, I revamped the protocols. I revamped and made this service an experience and no longer a treatment. This is not just a treatment. This is not just about the 1 hour. I have now taken a step back and I want to give you a more holistic experience where we are tapping into so many other elements so that you can have an experience in this same 60 minutes. Whereas before, when you used to come, the mind frame, the thought process was different, right? It's like, okay, I've got clients, get in, do a facial, get out. If they buy product, okay, fine. Now it's like, well, what are you doing at home? We're all spending so much time at home, and how is your well-being, and are you sleeping, and are you drinking enough water, and are you cooking at home? Like all of these different things that people now no longer take for granted. So it truly helps with creating an experience. So I'm shifting a lot of my clients who were truly processors before with their treatments. It's like treatment, 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 treatment. Now look at your client more holistically. What do you offer from an experiential point of view, right? What are you offering them that they take away when they go home?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
this will validate a price increase.
Exactly. And that's what I was saying to the girls. We're doing a lot of different things, like with even like paraffin wax, how we're even putting the paraffin wax, like to your whole point of making it more of an experience. Because I feel like that's what I always have to step back and think of myself as a client too. Like if I went into a spa, what would I pay more for, or the experience? Like what kind of experience? How do I want to feel when I leave? How do I want to be greeted when I come in? Like I want them to know my name when I come in. I'm not just like another person. I'm just not a number to them. So really creating that full experience from when they come in.
Well, the reality is these people have been washing their own skin for a year, so they don't like, the reality is they truly do not need you. When it comes down to basics, they don't need you. So if all you think you provide is a facial, I'm gonna clean your skin or like slap some product on your face, you don't have a business model, right? They can do that at home. You have to now, because again, we're stuck at home. If I have the option to leave my house for something, it better be a damn good reason.
Yeah.
Right? You better light a fire under me to get me to come in, leave the comfort of my home, actually get dressed up and put on a face and do my hair, because I can do this for myself at home. So if you don't see it that way and you only see it as like, well, I do great facials, you have to take your ego out of it, because if anything you've been taught over the last year is we can all survive without all the stuff.
Yes. 100%.
So it better be good enough to get someone up out of their house and feel honored that they did that, because so many people are opting to not do that.
That's a really good point. Yeah. And that's what I think too, when it comes to like having like back to that whole intention and that purpose, right? It all circles back to that topic of the intention of your client coming in. What is
Why are you here? Why do you exist?
Yes.
If you don't know, people will not get off their ass to come see you for no reason.
Absolutely.
And so if you are a bit lost, which is also okay, look, we don't have to have it all figured out all the time. And what I work on the most with my clients is what I like to call Edison's light bulb. Where you start is not necessarily where you're going to finish. So don't worry about, like, it's not absolute, right? Like the very first light bulb that was ever invented, used, or created is not the light bulbs that we use today. Okay? There's room for improvement everywhere. So it's okay if you don't necessarily know what the end product looks like, but you got to start somewhere. And you have to be okay with the shifts and the changes and things like that. But it's really interesting because a lot of people don't even start, or they don't get going, or they don't make that change, or they don't do the shift because they feel like it's got to be absolute or all figured out. And
Yeah.
it's okay if you don't have your why figured out or that vision figured out just yet. But what we know for sure is if you keep trying at it, you're getting closer, right? So keep trying
Mhm.
and keep, when they say like, "Oh, I'm waiting for an idea to strike me." This is not how great things are created.
No.
You put pen to paper, or you put yourself in the zone even when you don't think you can, or when you're unmotivated, or when you're not feeling creative. If you keep pushing yourself to get into it, it eventually comes.
Yeah, absolutely. And not having that imposter syndrome of like the what ifs, oh, if this happens, or learning, yes, no isn't a bad thing. Like if someone says, no, I can't do that, or this doesn't, just, everything's figure outable one way or another.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, just to kind of close things off of this amazing conversation already, what are some of the like books that you would recommend for kind of those topics that we touched on? I know you probably
Yeah.
got a few off the top of your head there.
I have a big book collection. So like, when people ask me, "What's your hobbies?" I'm like, "Well, I read."
Yeah.
I this just for me, it's the thing is like, I don't have a job. This is my work,
Mhm.
right? And a job is what you're paid for, and your work is what you're made for. I heard that from Steve Harvey, and it like clicked with me one day, which is why I'm like, it's all interconnected for me because I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Now, not everyone's going to feel so connected, I get it, but the thing is, for me, I read a lot on different facets of self-development, of course, because it's important to have a lot of awareness of your own worldview, how you see things, making sure that you leave like room for the possibility to be wrong, or the possibility to do things different, or the possibility that there's a better way than the way that you're doing it right now. So the thing is, like, I know a lot, but I don't know everything, and I am life's student.
Yes.
So depends on the area. If you are just going into business, I think it's really important to do some, let's say, self development work, right? Because a lot of us go into business with the like misconception that it's all about us, and like we're fabulous, and we're a business owner now, and like I'm a CEO, and like I have my own business.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that there's a lot to learn in any book around introspection and kind of like taking a deeper look at your why. So of course I've read Start with Why.
Yeah.
I love that book. It's a little bit of a drawn out read, but it is worth a read. Also, if you're just starting out in business, I think The Infinite Game is another amazing book, because what you realize is you are not in competition with other people, but rather the whole premise of getting into business is to keep it into like to keep the propensity of it going to eventually either hand it down to people in your family, or to sell it off so that the business perpetuates. So I love The Infinite Game. Another one that I usually recommend for people who are first time entrepreneurs, but maybe a first time in a role where it requires leadership, something beyond yourself, is called The Outward Mindset.
Mhm.
It starts to give you a little bit of a foundation of understanding beyond just your own performance and how you can show up for other people. Um, there's a lot actually on my Instagram, but some, oh God, it depends. It depends on where you're at in your business, or your um, the level of self development that you're at, right? Because sometimes you can get a book too soon, and then you get it and you read it and you're like, I didn't make sense of that because it just, you weren't ready for it. So I always like, if any of your listeners have any, they want book recommendations on that kind of stuff, I'm happy to answer. If you scroll through my Instagram, I have a ton, but you can also I've listed like my 5 books for new entrepreneurs or new leaders is like the outward mindset. The power of the other is another one. It's all about relationship building. That one's amazing. Um, Fierce conversations, especially if you're a female entrepreneur, it's really important to be able to find your authentic voice. As you mentioned, being able to say no, but having uncomfortable conversations. It doesn't always have to be something that is of conflict. There's ways you can communicate what you're thinking, feeling, what you need without causing an argument.
Mhm.
Um, I am drawing a blank, but there's quite a few on my Instagram.
I was gonna say sometimes there's like too many that you're like, I'm like that when people ask me, oh, what's a book you would recommend? And then like all of them kind of mold together because there's so many good ones and they're all very similar when you get into like the business as well as like self-development, or even I've been into biographies lately as well. That's another thing of like,
Oh,
um,
I loved Becoming from Michelle Obama. That one was great.
yeah,
Um, that was an amazing book because the takeaways, again, like to a common theme that I have as well, is like it's called becoming because you're not done. It's
yeah.
not like you reach adulthood and then you're like, okay, this is me and I guess that's it for the next 60 years.
Mhm.
No, it's all about the evolution of self and the different ways that you grow into who you're meant to be and undoing who they, everything external, told you should be. So it's a beautiful book. I love that book. But the book I'm reading right now is called The Power of Intention by Dr. Wayne Dwyer. It's so good. And so, yeah, if you're struggling kind of with your why or your purpose or understanding a deeper, like trying to have that deeper conversation with yourself, why do I do what I do? Or why am I wanting to do that? Power of Intention is really important as well for your marketing strategy, for your
Yeah.
business. It's a good one.
Miskoka Beauty wants to thank everyone for listening to our podcast. And we're offering 15% off your first bottle of Lash and Brow Serum by Miskoka Beauty. Now, if you haven't heard or if you haven't tried or seen before and afters or even seen reviews, you're definitely going to want to head to miskoka.com and click onto our lash serum to actually read some of the reviews because this product is unbelievable. It will enhance your natural length and your brows as well, making them more full and absolutely gorgeous. So head over to miskoka.com and type in promo code Beauty Brand Podcast 15. Once again, that's Beauty Brand Podcast 15. Happy shopping and happy lashing. Well, this was an amazing conversation, speaking of that. So I think from our listeners too, where's the best place for them to like reach you to kind of see all your obviously some of the books you've been reading, a lot of the videos that I've even learned a lot from just scrolling through your Instagram and jumping on your reels and IGTV. So probably you can let us know the best places to find you.
Best place to find me is Instagram at the Spa Business Coach. And then I have a membership or a program. How I work with my clients, you can get it in the link in my bio on Instagram. It's called Passion to Profits, where we truly teach you how to take your passion, your business, why you opened up, but help you understand the back end of the business. So I know a lot of business coaches or marketing agencies out there that are helping spas. My program's different in the sense that my desire is to teach you what you need to know to run your business without me. So our time together is all about me teaching you how to operate and run your business and not be afraid of numbers, to lean into all of those difficult things, those uncomfortable things, so that after we're done working together, you possibly don't need me anymore and you go out into the world and you serve your clients.
It's kind of like that saying, I forget exactly how it goes, about teaching the fisherman how to fish versus just like
Oh,
giving
exactly.
the fish, right? I love
Yeah.
that. Because
Yeah.
that's the thing of there's a lot of hand holding in this world. I know that sounds kind of harsh to say, but it's amazing when you do feel that independence of that knowledge of like, okay, I can do this now. Like you can't put value on that.
Absolutely.
Or you can't put a dollar amount like that. That's just like an unbelievable feeling that I think a lot of people might not ever think's possible for them. So that's really, really great way to like kind of cap this whole conversation around, as well as your courses. Because I think for sure a lot of people, like even whether you're not a spa boutique or a nurse, injectable nurse, or even like Botox nurse, like any kind of industry within the beauty industry, you could take a lot of these conversations we just had and bring them into any other business. Because
Absolutely.
the pillars of success, I think, when it comes to like your personal well-being and the intentions, your pricing, thinking about your client, not yourself. Like we've touched a lot of topics here, Erin.
I mean, even if you're opening a restaurant, the principles of business are the same, right? So,
Absolutely.
as you said, it's definitely transferable. I focus in on spa and Medi Spa, one, because I love it, two, because I have a depth of knowledge of the numbers of what works and where you should be and where you can go based on those numbers. So, yeah, I mean, the thing is, business is scary for anyone. It doesn't matter if you have an MBA or not, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot that we don't know. But the biggest thing that I think is important, and I do it for myself as well, if you are afraid to invest in yourself, like you have to understand, if you are afraid to invest in yourself and you don't take that chance on yourself, nobody will take that chance
Mhm.
on you. So if you feel like, oh, I can't get coaching because I can't afford it, or like, no, it comes down to a fundamental mindset. Either you're worth it or you don't believe you're worth it,
Mhm.
right? So when you invest in yourself, you reap what you sow.
Absolutely.
And if you are willing to invest in yourself and get help that you need, a skill set that you need, a more depth of knowledge that you need to serve your audience or clients or patients, whatever it is, that is then reciprocated. People invest in you because you've invested in yourself.
And people can see that. Like I've had people that I haven't seen in like a year and a half, almost 2 years. And I can see, like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, you look like you're radiating. Like you can see that, like their inner being is just a completely different person. Because I think a lot of people have taken the time, like the beginning of this conversation, of working on themselves during this pandemic, during the closures, exercising, eating better, doing at home workouts, working on their businesses. And I think people are starting to see that mind shift and making it into routines as well, and making it a habit now. So, well, this is amazing, Erin. Thank you so much for jumping on with us. And I'll be I'll be super excited to hear some of the feedback we'll have from some of our listeners for sure on this
And
episode.
I'm happy to answer if you get any questions from your listeners. Happy to answer them. You can shoot me a DM anytime. I'm
Amazing.
happy to help be a resource or point you in the right direction if I'm not the right resource.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Erin. We'll chat soon.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Take care. Bye.